You're good. Come on, office.
Yeah.
Do you want to shut the door in case Wendy comes?
Can do that, but I mean, she said it was at 3:30. It's 3 o'clock right now.
It's 3 o'clock already.
Yeah.
Oh shit, we gotta get going. Okay. And hello. How are
Hi.
you doing today?
Good. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. How was your week?
Not too bad. I feel like it's been kind of the same.
Fair enough. I already feel like I'm like already trying to get to like last week we talked about.
Yeah.
Okay. I already hate it. So, what did you get up to this week?
Not too much. A lot more work, homework, school stuff. Kind of planning out how the rest of the summer is going to go in my next semester at school.
Okay.
And hopefully this weekend my partner will be coming back, so that'll be nice, even though he's only here for 10 days.
Okay. That will be nice.
Yeah, it just takes a little bit of extra stress off me because I go and see his dog every once in a while to make sure that she's doing okay.
So, have you been checking on her every day?
No, not every day. Like every weekend.
Okay. Nice. You mentioned you maybe had like more work. Did you just mean like was there an increase in work or just more work to do?
I feel like it was more of like a realization of how much work there really was that I needed to get done in a short amount of time. And I've definitely procrastinated a lot on my work, so that's kind of created a build-up, which obviously exacerbates the effects of stress and everything else. So, yeah, same old week, kind of.
What are the effects of the stress that you're feeling kind of the most right now?
Just lack of motivation. I'm so tired.
Right.
I just want to go to sleep all the time.
Do you find you're sleeping enough at night?
Yeah, I'm oversleeping, if anything.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I'm literally just pretending to look. I'm just in character. Okay. So walk me through what a typical day looks like for you, where you're doing both work and practicum work. What does that look like for you?
So, on like any given day, I guess, like I'll take Mondays for example. I usually try to get out of bed at like before 7 o'clock, but I'm usually up out of bed around 7:30, 8 o'clock. And I'm taking my dog out for a walk and making myself coffee, eating something before leaving the house to go to work. Mondays, I only have 2 sessions currently. So I have one from 11 to 1 and then one from 3:30 to 5:30. So I usually go to my first session and then the break that I have in between the 2 sessions, I used to do a lot of my homework, my practicum work. And then I go to my other session, which is at another location. And yeah, kind of depending on how I get home from that session determines whether or not I'm going to do anything at home, whether it's like catching up on like basic house cleanup and whatever, or other schoolwork that needs to get done. And then obviously as soon as I get home I take my dog out again, and usually I get home around like 6:30, so I take her out, and I usually don't really eat anything other than like a sandwich or a piece of peanut butter toast because it's pretty late and I don't feel like doing dishes. So yeah.
Are you eating throughout the day at work?
I'm snacking more than anything.
Do you think that maybe how much you're eating could affect your energy levels? Have you like
Yes.
played with it a bit? You've noticed that maybe have more energy after you've eaten a bit more, or
yeah, I mean sometimes I feel like if I just eat a bunch of food then I feel more tired afterwards. I don't think it really affects how I feel energy wise. But yeah, there's the other side of the coin where like I don't want to eat so much that I'm like gaining weight, because there's been a steady incline in how much weight I've gained since I've been going to school. So like year 3 I'm like, oh, I should probably, take control of this before it gets to a point where it's going to affect my health, which is really important. So I just can't consistently keep up with going to the gym. Again, that's like the motivation thing. I find it hard to get motivated to go to the gym.
Right. You mentioned you really wanted to kind of like take control. Aside from going to the gym, is there anything else that kind of that might look like for you?
Yeah, if I had more time, I feel like I would, probably eat a lot better and take care of my house better, and I would probably not be struggling with like my time management right now. Like when I first started college, it wasn't this difficult to like start doing stuff. It was actually pretty easy. Like I was constantly on the go and doing stuff. But by my second year of college, like halfway through, I feel like it was just a decline. And it's also hard not to like eat your feelings sometimes.
Yeah, I think a lot of people cope with those bigger emotions through eating. It's very common.
Yeah, sugar is definitely something that I'm struggling with not eating. I think I just have this mentality of like I want to treat myself all the time, but it's not actually like it is it's a treat, but it's not a treat in the long run. I feel know, like it tastes good in the moment, but you're doing a lot more damage to your physical health if that's how you're gonna continuously treat yourself. Which is a hard reality to swallow, for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, that's probably how any addict feels when they're realizing that they actually have a problem. Which is crazy to think, because nobody thinks that of sugar like that, but it's like one of the most heavily processed things in our food.
Yeah, and isn't it like very similar to? It's not that far off from like cocaine, truly. Coca.
Yeah, which makes you think of like what's in all of our food. Which makes me think of like how it's really hard to sustain a healthy diet only buying like local produce and natural foods and nothing like boxed or canned. Like that's the ideal, I feel, for me. If I had lots of time to cook myself stuff and like bake and preserve things, I would want to only have like local foods, produces and stuff. But buying from a box is much cheaper and more convenient when you don't have time.
Have you found your eating habits, but also like your grocery purchasing change from like living with your partner to living without? Because like sometimes it can be easier to buy in bundles and more cost effective. But when you're living by yourself, like, do you still share groceries with your partner at all?
Yes and no. He doesn't eat vegetables. So if I buy vegetables, I can't buy them in bulk because I'm only buying them for myself. But if we're buying like other stuff, like house essentials, like toilet paper, paper towel, canned stuff, meat, like all of that can be bought in bulk and kind of split between us. But yeah, because I'm like, I don't cook often enough, I don't even buy myself fresh fruits and vegetables, because by the time I do go to use it, it's usually moldy. And then I throw it out and I go through all this cycle of like, oh wow, I just wasted all this food and, you know, technically this money. So that kind of reinforces that negative cycle, and then I just kind of stop buying fresh anything because I don't want it to get wasted. I hate wasting. It's like my biggest yuck in the world. But I also don't like eating leftovers, because as a kid we were always forced to eat leftovers so that they were gone before anything else was opened. And so I think that probably contributes to that heavily. Also, like, throughout my life, I feel like I had pretty strict control of what I was and wasn't allowed to eat until I was like 14, 15. And at 14, I got a job and started making my own money, so I could just buy whatever I wanted. I mean, I didn't have that much money, but, you know, enough for a kid to get snacks whenever they wanted, every once in a while. Yeah. But I do love food. If I had the time, and if I like went to the gym regularly, it would probably motivate me to eat better meals. But as of right now, there's just not enough time. Which is also like another, like, how do you say it? Demotivating. Like, I'm like, wow, there's so many things to do. What do I prioritize today?
Right. It would almost be interesting if you had like a group of friends that you guys could meal prep with, and everybody like does a meal, and then you guys could like switch off. Or like all get together and this is your portion, this is your portion, this is your portion.
Yeah.
I know someone that like might be interested in that.
That'd be a really good idea.
Um, how have you found your supports at work? Last week we talked about how you weren't getting too much support, and that your practicum was feeling a little disorganized, and that you didn't have too much control over it.
Yeah. It's a lot to unload. I did go to my supervisor to have a little chat with her about everything, and it kind of seems like more than anything she's just a little bit too, I wouldn't say focused on other things, but I would say that she's focused on so much, like so many different things, that it's almost like she's just not comprehending my need for more direction. So it's almost hard to articulate, because like it's nice that I have almost like this free reign of getting to do what I want, but that's not so helpful because I'm not at the point where I would feel like if this were my business, I probably wouldn't want somebody who's only been here for a year to run an semi-experimental program. You know?
Yeah.
Like someone who hasn't even gone through like their RBT training, which is what I was told I would be doing last September, which I am only now just getting to, which is now getting kind of like left in the dust because I don't have time for it. And that's not stressing me out too much, because I know that once I get like the work that I need to done for July, I'll be able to start picking up on it again and doing it more often, because I will have more help with my work. But like that was just something that I was really looking forward to doing for a while. So it's kind of frustrating that it's gotten pushed to the side, like the one thing that I am like happy to do, and it's actually like interesting to me. It's not something that's like I'm forced to do. It was something that I chose to do, and it's something that I'm actually quite interested in, so I like doing it. It's a lot of really like, it's a lot of great information too. Like I feel like in tandem with what I'm doing right now, like it was a perfect time to kind of do it, because it's teaching me a little bit more skills to help the work that I'm doing. However, it's just hard for me to like implement those skills properly if I'm not getting direction on them. Like I'm supposed to be being like supervised at work, and there's just not a whole lot of supervision going on. Right. No observations for how I'm running things. So that's really difficult. It's usually just like passing comments at work that are kind of like, oh, you did this great, or like, thanks for cleaning up, the place looks great. Like at my work there's not very much consistent employee like feedback. I think that would be like something that really needs to happen, is like every employee should have some kind of meeting once a month regarding constructive criticism and like praise. You know? I think it would go a long way in making people feel like they're doing a better job, or to feel like, you know, they even want to stay at this job, because a lot of people are feeling underappreciated, which is unfortunate, because a lot of our clients are thriving because of us. And it's because of the people that are on the floor.
Yeah, the front line.
which is interesting. Interesting that someone in my position, like, there's a lot of people who have been in this field for a long time, and I feel like I do have that natural ability. Like, I do love kids, and I've been around them my whole life. But it's just so interesting to see someone who hasn't even been in this career field for very long doing something so important along with everyone else. And then all of these other, like, more important people are just writing down all of these programs and getting, like, all the credit for the hard work. But, I mean, that's the way everything kind of works, I guess.
What makes you say those people are more important?
In the context of work, they're more important. I think that's a really... Everything is very contextual. If you were to take all of us out of the work field, there's no better or less better. Like, we're all equal. But in the work field, their knowledge, their experience and education are definitely make them like, more important at the job, because they do like the foundational work for the frontline work. So.
But if there was no one to implement the protocols that they put in, then the work's not happening either. Yes, like 22. But there's a...
Oh.
Yeah. Just, like, looking at what you've said today, it... Like, I almost see that there's, like, a theme of, like, positive reinforcement. Whether it's through eating sugar, you know, like your boss saying, like, passing comments, or people saying passing comments, where you're actually looking for, like, real feedback. And I think also, like, that ties into going home and going to bed. Like, there's a release in that. There is a dopamine release in that. So I almost wonder, like, when you filled out your intake form, what are things that you can do during the day that you actually enjoy? I think I read that you, like, you spend time with your dog and going outside, which you go for your walks. I feel like I also saw reading. Well, you do your average reading. Is that reading that you enjoy, or is that
School?
Okay.
Yeah, I feel like I do enjoy reading a lot, and that is something that I do love to do as a hobby. But when I'm doing it for so long and reading stuff on the computer, the last thing that I want to do is open a book and read for fun.
Yeah, no, that totally makes sense.
Which is unfortunate, because, like, I do have a whole bookshelf full of books.
Do you enjoy your time driving? And what do you usually do? Like, listen to music, a podcast, call your boyfriend?
Yeah. It's okay. Like, if it's, like, driving to and from work, it's not really that great because of traffic. But if it's driving, like, to a secondary location, like, of my own will, then I generally like to go for a drive. Like, that's something I like to do. I do like to listen to music as well. Sometimes I just find that there's, like, a time and a place for it. Sometimes I'm in the mood to listen to music, and sometimes I'm not. And also, like, I don't listen to music on my walks with my dog because I live in the bush, so I can't really have no hearing
Mm-hmm.
because things pop out at you pretty quickly.
Yeah.
And I do live in my landlord's basement, so I can't play music that loud.
Mm.
But I've always been weird about like wearing earbuds and listening to like music really loud in my house because I feel like, what if I'm being like really loud and obnoxious and like banging stuff around and I can't hear it?
Mm-hmm.
So that kind of, I'm like, I don't want to do that.
Okay, trauma response. Where do I even write that? Can't be loud in own house.
Right?
I get it. I hate this form. I should have just done a blank piece of paper.
Mm-hmm.
And what about, like, I know right now there's a big increase in, like, podcasts, called crime podcasts, or what is this, smut books, or isn't that what they are?
Yeah.
Is that stands for something?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I think it's just like a
Schmackshay.
yeah, what do you call those words? A derogatory term? I don't know.
You mark down adjusting to life transitions as an area of like a support that you might be looking at. What type of life transition are you talking about here?
Those just kind of like overall life transitions. Like I moved and now my partner has to move from his house, which is pretty difficult because he's in a really good spot right now and he has a big dog like I do, and unfortunately there's just like nowhere to go with a big dog. So, and he's also not looking for a place or anything like that, and it's really frustrating me because that's really messed up that he could like lose his house at any minute. And that's why we had that's why we had moved apart in the first place, was because the landlord that he's living under now, it was like a complete psychopath. And I couldn't stay there anymore because I couldn't communicate appropriately with him after 2 years of having him like randomly freak out and say weird shit about me and my dog, and then try to blackmail me for the money from our accidental litter, because he also has a dog that's a male. And so his male and my female had an accidental litter, and it completely like ruined my relationship, ruined my dog, ruined me. It was actually an extremely, like, I wouldn't say that it was like traumatic, but it definitely wasn't something that I was hoping that I would ever go through. My dog had 15 puppies and only 9 of them survived, so, you know, like I buried 6 dead dogs, which, you know, I think about from time to time, and how they're buried on a property that I can't even like go see. It's very upsetting. So yeah, anyways, I mean, all the puppies that did live were really healthy. They had a really good life, but he like wanted the money, like half the money that we got from it, or at least the money from one of the puppies, and we ended up giving him nothing because I used $3,500 of my student loan to keep us afloat while we had these puppies.
Right.
Because they ate so much, and you know, they costed us like the extra heat, the extra supplies, like pee pads and food and all of this stuff. And it was so crazy having 10, 11, 12 dogs in the house. And so yeah, after that I just couldn't even like talk to him without losing my shit on him, because yeah, my dog has developed a couple of issues due to being pregnant, and now I'm like really worried to get her fixed, because she's 4 years old. Like at that point, like, is it going to help or is it not going to help? You know?
Right.
Like I know that in big dogs the cancer does generally get to them first if they're left intact, but being halfway through her lifespan, do I put her through a major surgery like that? That could potentially leave her worse than she is now. Like, she's not in a bad condition now. She just, you know, her joints hurt a lot. I can tell because her legs vibrate sometimes, and she's got like this skin condition on her legs. And yeah, her nipples never went back to like the same size before. Then some of them are just like all scarred up and scabbed up from the puppies chewing on them. And she's a great mom though. And all of her puppies, I mean, I had one of her puppies for a while because somebody took two of her puppies, which against my own judgment should not have taken the two of them. But anyways, a male was sent back, and I ended up taking that responsibility on because I didn't want him to get put down because he was aggressive. And it was great actually, because even though it took almost 3 months or just over 3 months of looking for a home for him, 4 people gave him back, like took him and gave him back because he was too much. But when we were like kind of just like finally giving up hope and being like, oh my god, we're never gonna find this dog a home, someone who had messaged my partner a week before something. I guess he just never saw the message. He's not really the brightest, but he goes back through his messages and he's like, oh, like, look, there's one that I never saw. I guess he had messaged him twice. And that's the guy that has the dog now. He went out. It was actually really interesting because all the people that wanted him, like, it was a very spontaneous decision and they were like weren't prepared for it. This guy, it was a very spontaneous decision, but he decided that, like, when Ken messaged him back and said, yeah, like, he's yours, we're just going to get him back from this other person, he was like, okay, man, like, I have a tattoo appointment tomorrow, but before that, I'll go out and I'll get, like, all the stuff that he needs and everything. So he had, like, a bunch of brand new stuff to go to, and yeah, this guy is, like, getting him, like, behavioral training and stuff like that. So it's nice to see that, if you, well, not always, but sometimes if you wait long enough for the right thing, it will come along, Even though it sucks waiting a lot and you're left, like, wondering, when is this going to end? But
it's really obvious in how picky you were about, like, the home you wanted for this dog, how much you care.
Yeah. Well, he was, like, one that I wanted to keep, and that's kind of why this litter was more traumatic than it should have been, was because I thought that if Stella would ever have puppies that I would get to keep one, and that just was not the case, because you can barely get housing in Victoria with one big dog, let alone 2 big dogs, and a male that's aggressive. I just didn't have the financial resources to get him the help that he needed. And yeah, it seems like this guy really cares about him the way that I was looking for someone to like want a dog. So, and he said he's been looking for a Presa Canario for a long time. He had one in his childhood and wanted another one. So he says that I forget when it was. I think it was like the first or second night that he had him, but he said that he was like glued to him. He was like, love this guy so much already. It was really cute. It was really cute. So I think that that's his best bud now. So that's nice to know. Same way that Stella is my best bud.
Mm-hmm.
They're very good dogs, very loyal.
Yeah.
So
yeah, that's good.
I'm glad 9 people were, one Stella baby richer in their lives.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's not a lot of things that can match a dog's love. That's for sure.
Yeah, that's true.
It sounds like you're super passionate about like dogs.
Mm-hmm.
Like, have you ever thought about working with dogs? I'm just curious.
Always.
Yeah, and why children and why not dogs?
Because ultimately, what I would want to do, I feel like I can't do here. Like, I would want to be like a full-time rescue sanctuary, and that's not something that I could do here without having the funds to do it. And there's not many jobs that you can get other than being like a veterinarian that pays a lot of money for working with pets. And I mean, money's not my main motivation. I love kids too, but I mean, eventually my dream would have like almost like a Montessori farm where I would have, my own little Montessori school and my rescue on the same property.
Like an animal rescue.
Yeah.
And what, sorry?
School.
Cool.
I think that it would be really great to teach kids about the land and animals and,
You could even throw in like an indigenous perspective to that if you wanted to.
Mm-hmm.
How have you found this week in terms of like we talked about meal plan, and we also talked about like the affordability of groceries. Have you found anything that you've done differently this week, even in the slightest, that's made your schedule just a little bit easier?
I mean, yes and no. If I am motivated, it's almost like, what do you call it? It's like it cascades all of the problems. The motivation is the real issue. When I'm not motivated to do anything, that's when all of the housework piles up and the homework piles up. Like, I do have like a small amount of spare time a day. I can do these things. I'm just not motivated to. And it's not that I don't care about myself. I'm just like tired and I'd rather go to bed.
Are you tired if you're getting enough sleep?
Yes.
Do you know why?
No. I mean, like, my partner says it's because I'm overtired. But just for the love of God, I cannot seem to wake up any earlier. Like, for the last 2 weeks, I set alarms. I have 3 alarms, 5:30, 6:30. and I wake up to them almost 90% of the time. I will just shut them off and I'll go right back to sleep. It's like it's almost like an instinct, like I'm doing it without even knowing.
Mm-hmm.
Because half the time I won't remember turning it off and going back to sleep.
Right. What time are you going to bed at night?
Like sometimes I'll go and lay in bed at 8:30, 9 o'clock.
Okay.
So it's not by any means, it's definitely not late. Sometimes I'm even like so tired that I'll just crawl into bed at 7.
So when you get home, you probably get home around 7 if there's
6:30.
okay.
Yeah. Cuz it's 33-ish minutes to get to and from work when there's no traffic, and when there is traffic, it's about 50 minutes. So I get home anywhere from like 6 to 6:30. If I'm early, it's like 6:10. That's what I say is early.
Right. Sorry, what time do you go to sleep? Sometimes as early as usually like 8:39.
Sometimes as early as like 7:30, 8:30, but usually around 10 o'clock.
It's all right here. I should read my own form. Do you nap at all?
Yes. It's not anything consistent though. It's very spontaneous.
Okay.
I take a nap if I feel tired and I decide that I have enough time to take a nap.
Do you find that your lack of motivation is related to your marijuana intake?
Sometimes, definitely. But I've like thought about this a lot, and if I don't smoke anything during the day, I am like very triggered, very uptight. It's hard for me to relax. I just feel very tense and very angry.
Okay. But do you find that it does?
Yeah,
Okay.
I do definitely think that it does.
For you, the negatives outweigh the benefits.
100%, yeah. The benefits outweigh the negatives.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense. Do you find any difference with like the strains that you're smoking? Have you played around with that much? Okay.
100%. I can't do edibles. They give me massive headaches.
Okay.
I can't do any distillates. Those also give me headaches. I have found that the only way to smoke it is to smoke it out of like a bong or a joint. Like flower, not like crystal or anything like that.
Right.
But I don't smoke as much as I used to. I actually smoke way less. Like before I would smoke like maybe like 4 to 8 half-gram joints a day.
How were your motivation levels then?
The same.
Yeah.
The same. 2 years ago I was smoking like a lot, and I had like insane amounts of motivation. So maybe it's because I've just been on it for like I've been smoking it for too long, and now my body's like working against me, or it's all, you know, how like after a while the positive turns to negative kind of thing. But yeah, I only smoke sativa. If indica also makes me feel like I'm gonna throw up.
Interesting.
Also gives me headaches.
You got a weird thing with headaches.
Yeah.
How's your hydration?
They run in my family.
Usually pretty.
Usually pretty good. Lately, I definitely have not been getting enough water, but I haven't been getting a whole lot of headaches, so I know that the two aren't related. Headaches and migraines run in my family. My sister used to get, like, when she was a teenager into her early 20s, and I guess still now, but just not as frequently. She used to get such bad migraines that she'd be in her room for a whole day or two with just the light off and, like, switching cold packs out to put on her head.
How were you feeling for motivation when you were going to the gym a little more consistently? Did it seem to help?
Better. A little bit better, yeah. It's just I don't like going alone.
Wow, you should get your friend who's
Yeah.
a little more on it.
Yeah. I don't it's weird. I have social anxiety. It's not that I care about what people are going to think about me in the gym. I just don't like to be around people. Unless I'm like with a friend or something. You know, it's very contradicting. Because normally if you didn't care what people think, you would just go ahead and do it. But there's always something that's like
Are you like that in kind of every social situation or more just like the gym?
I would say that I try to avoid any heavily populated place frequently. And it's not because I feel like definitely when I was a teenager, it would be because of social anxiety. I was very anxious as a teenager, and being around people just didn't make me feel good. But as like I've gotten older, I've realized that it's just because most people are not my cup of tea. And I don't really like being around people because half the time they're just not who I would want to surround myself with anyways. Like I'm not into bars. I already did all of that when I first moved here to Victoria. And it doesn't really it's just not really like it was my thing maybe when I was younger and had less responsibility, but now I'm just kind of like trying to focus on a career and, you know, being healthy. And that does not include drinking of any sort. Also because I went from being, I feel, borderline alcoholic to being like, drinking is the worst thing in the world.
I see. Okay. We have about 10 minutes left in our session. Is there anything that you want to talk about today that we haven't gotten to yet?
No, I don't think so. I think that's kind of just the gist of how things are still going. Yeah, at the end of the day, it's all just about my motivation, really.
Are you aware of like how you prioritize what is the most important to you? So you've got work, you've got school, you've got practicum, you've got taking care of your dog, your house, and your partner. He's away right now, but he will be back. If you were to come home and say, okay, I've got the ability to do like maybe 3 things. Your dog's a non-negotiable. You have to take care of her. So that's one. You've now got 2 more opportunities. Do you have a way to say, okay, as much as I know it would be easier to clean my house right now, my assignment's due, and like you make that a top priority. and like your priorities can change every day,
Mm-hmm.
you know, depending on if that assignment's due next week or if it's due tomorrow. And then make sure that you're putting yourself in as a priority, and maybe taking care of yourself that day does look like, okay, just cleaning all the dishes because they're done. But maybe that night you're not doing your readings for school. Do you feel like something like that would be something you could work on for this week?
Yeah, definitely. I think that maybe I just look at self-care as negotiable. Like, obviously, my dog is non-negotiable because she can't take care of herself. But, like, my work, that's why also my RBT course is on the back burner, because my work that can be pushed to the back as well. That's not a priority. However, this thing for practicum and work, like my practicum, like, I don't know, they intersect and it has a deadline. That's why I feel like these things need to get done. But I guess almost because of how overwhelmed I feel, I don't want to do it. Because it's too much. And like I was talking to a coworker about it, and like they had said, someone in the field for 5-7 years can think of the things that I'm doing, with a little bit of thinking. But for me to think of one activity, I have to do quite a bit of research and stuff, and a lot of thinking, and probing my coworkers to see what works best for these ABA targets that I'm trying to hit. So it is just that yeah, the schedules are crazy. Because each schedule has like 8 to 10 different activities, and I have to think of all of those activities, and they have to change for they're supposed to change for every week. However, I may not change them for every week because in my opinion, because the groups change weekly, the people in those groups change weekly, for the most part, that they shouldn't have to change weekly, except for like the major theme. But that like goes by days of the week, so the kids get something different every day. But then the group changes the next week, so they get unless they're the exact same kids, it should be fine to use the exact same schedule, in my opinion, if it works developmentally.
That does sound like a really good plan. Have you spoken to your manager about that yet, or?
No, I've more talked about like the progress that I'm making and what I'm doing in general. However, because they are having such a difficult time on their own right now, I feel like whatever I say is not at the top of their priority list anyways. So like it would be very hard for them to think about doing, or to think about anything extra for these summer camps that I've been put on, with everything that they have going on right now as well. Whenever I see them, they're in crisis. So
all right, well, it does sound like they've given you kind of the ability to make that executive decision. So yeah, I mean, I think you're doing a really great job. I think anyone in your position, with everything that you have on your plate right now, I think it's okay to have some like coping skills that are like eating treats sometimes, and, going to bed a little early, that's totally okay. I think as long as we are not like completely blinder to all of our responsibilities, which I don't think you are. I mean, like you are depending on a lot of your strengths, like being hardworking, and it sounds like you're able to compartmentalize a little bit when it comes to like work and social personal life stuff, which is really great. Not a lot of people can do that. So yeah, I think this week, just really focus on maybe pushing yourself to do like 1 or 2 tasks before you like go to sleep, and because you are extremely resilient and hardworking, that I do think you could. And maybe on the ride home, like you're thinking about, okay, what is the one thing that I do feel like I have the energy for, and maybe you do it just before you take out like Stella she'd probably go for a pee immediately, but like for your longer walk, you can be like, okay, I'll do these 2 things, and then we get to go for a nice walk, and then you guys can go to bed. Might be a nice way to kind of sandwich it.
Yeah.
But yeah, overall, try and find some ways that you can get your dopamine in, whether that is music or, you can always call up maybe your partner or a friend while you're driving, but also sometimes silence is really nice too, especially when working with kids.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. Anything else for me before we close our session today?
That's everything.
Okay. Excellent. I hope you have a lovely week.
Yes. See you next week.
Take care.